I honestly cannot believe that we are 9 installments into the Saw franchise. When did that happen? What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another video. And in today's video, as you can see, we're going to be talking about the latest installment into the Saw franchise, Spiral from the Book of Saw. A big thanks to the people at Lionsgate who sent me a screener for this. I'm actually a little bit later than a lot of the people who got to get early screeners, but I'm definitely grateful to have gotten my hands on an early screener of this film at all. If you guys have been watching the channel for a while, you know that I am a big fan of the Saw franchise. There's definitely some of the installments that are a bit convoluted and have some messy stories, but overall, it's definitely like a guilty pleasure kind of franchise. I am very intrigued by them. They're just fun to watch, and they have a lot of craziness. They're kind of tense to watch at times too. Some of them suck, some of them aren't that great, but they're still kind of entertaining, even the worst of them, at least for me. And so I was definitely curious to see what this one was going to be like, because it definitely seemed from the trailers that it was going to be the most kind of disconnected from what we've seen in the past. Even the last time we got kind of a soft reboot into this franchise with Jigsaw after a long kind of break between the movies, it was very much still connected to those original films, Jigsaw and John Kramer. Whereas this one, even though it definitely has its connections, it's very much its own thing. And I think some people will probably hop into this one as their first ever Saw. Though I will have to say, I don't think you'll have the full weight of what's happened in the world and the events that are happening if you haven't seen the previous films. Not necessarily the events that are happening to our characters specifically in this one, but, you know, just the weight of what they kind of are talking about at times when they talk about Jigsaw and the past. Because, again, if you haven't seen those movies, you won't have the weight there. But I think this movie does a good enough job of kind of being its own thing that I think you can watch this movie having not really seen too many of the other Saw movies and still follow along just fine, because these characters are brand new and this is a brand new situation. And so, yeah, I got to commend them for trying to do something different, try to do something new. But in a lot of ways, this movie is your run-of-the-mill Saw film. You have the traps here and there, you have the police story that we're following. But one thing I did really enjoy about it is that our main characters in the film are played by Chris Rock and Samuel L. Jackson, which is crazy to even see that we have a Saw film with Chris Rock and Samuel L. Jackson. But yeah, Chris Rock is our main focal point. He's the main one that we pay attention to. And we've had main characters in all of the Saw films, or at least characters that are the main characters. And I think this one, more so than a lot of the other ones, definitely hones in on its main character, focuses on him, and kind of makes it like a character piece, a kind of a character study throughout. And I think that they had a lot of potential with this film. There's a lot of things that I really enjoyed about this film. And of course, one of the things that I really enjoy anytime you have a modern version of a franchise that's a little bit older is, of course, you're going to have some better cinematography, some other things that kind of bring a more modern stylistic approach that I thought were pretty cool. This film was also directed by, I believe his name is Darren Lynn Bousman, who has directed some of the installments before, some that I enjoy, some that I don't enjoy all so much. And this is a film that for me kind of had a mix of the two, like of good and bad, because I enjoyed a lot about the way that this film was shot, the way it looked, the way it felt. I enjoyed the performances for the most part, even though there were some inconsistencies in certain moments of performances, most notably somebody like Chris Rock. At times I kind of felt like he was being Chris Rock, a little bit loud, a little bit big, over the top. And then there was moments where he kind of felt like he was putting on a voice sometimes, like he was trying to like put on a more serious tone and vibe that felt a little bit inconsistent from the scene we saw right before that. So there are a couple times where there are some scenes that kind of just come, you know, back to back, and he's kind of has a bit of a different feel to him in some of these sequences. Just something I noticed, not something that took me out of the film too much, but something that definitely was noticeable to me as far as his tone as a performance throughout the course of the movie. But yeah, it's great to see Samuel L. Jackson in a Saw film. Who would have thought? You know, he's definitely funny in the film for the brief period of time that he is in the movie. You know, I'm not going to talk about any spoilers here in the movie, but I thought Samuel L. Jackson was probably going to be in this movie a lot more than he was, but you know, he's not. But I enjoyed the role that he did play in it, and I enjoyed the father-son relationship that he does have with Chris Rock in this film. I thought there was a lot of potential there for some great stories. And anybody who's seen any one of these Saw films knows that the movies always end with that classic Saw theme playing over as we kind of get an unveiling of maybe things that we didn't know were happening throughout the film, or maybe a recontextualization of certain things that were happening in the film. So it's kind of like a moment where you get a reveal. And, this movie, similarly to all those, kind of does something like that. And I just felt like it didn't really fully pay off for me. By the time the film ended, I felt like there was a lot of things that were underdeveloped that could have been far more developed over the course of the film. We waste some time with some stuff that doesn't matter too much, when later in the film, the things that do kind of matter for the reveal and for the weight of that reveal aren't as really, pronounced earlier in the film. There are elements that just felt underdeveloped, and there are things that I felt they were trying to develop that didn't really have too much to do with the story. And I think that sometimes took away from certain elements of this film. There are a lot of interesting elements, and there was a lot about the performances and a lot that could have made this one of the better Saw installments. But by the end of it, kind of just left me feeling a little bit hollow. Me and my fiance looked over at each other as soon as it was over, and we were like, I didn't really like the ending. I'm not going to lie. The last 20, 30 minutes had a lot of pros, but it definitely had a lot of cons. And as soon as it ended and the credits rolled, I just thought, damn, they could have made the ending a little bit stronger for me, a lot stronger, to be honest, because I think this film did have a lot of potential. And I think because this one had the benefit of being so separated from those other films and being a new version with new characters, I think they really had the potential to tell a really cool and different story, and they just didn't, you know what I mean? In a lot of ways, it does feel like a run-of-the-mill Saw film, and that's kind of a bummer, because I think that, again, the film had a lot of potential. There's also some moments of dialogue that I probably would have changed up here or there, but overall, the only reason I'm talking about it maybe sounding so negative is just that I really enjoyed this franchise, and I was really hoping this would be kind of a much stronger installment into the series. Overall, I was entertained while watching. I wasn't bored. It didn't feel like a long watch. I think if you were a longtime Saw fan, there's something there for you. I think there's definitely something there for us. I look forward to revisiting this movie someday in the future. I will say one thing that disappointed me a little bit were the traps. There's definitely a couple that are pretty good. There's definitely some good blood and guts in the film, but overall, compared to everything else in the franchise, I gotta say it was fairly tame. There wasn't really much as far as the overall, blood and guts element that you come to this movie for, the gore, that was really all that great. There's a couple moments of pretty gory moments, but it's pretty subtle and pretty tame compared to any of the stuff that we've seen in previous films, and so that was definitely a disappointment as well. So, an overall pretty standard story that I gotta say was fairly predictable, with underdeveloped elements that definitely could have been a lot stronger, but a film with a lot of potential. I think if they make a sequel, I'm definitely curious to see where they take these characters in the story, if they follow it the same way that they kind of did with the other films, where those were all kind of deeply connected to one another. If they try to do that with this, I'll definitely be curious to see where they go, but I will say, as far as how this movie ended, it was pretty underwhelming for me a little bit, even though I did enjoy the first half. So first half strong for me, last half a little bit messy. The gory elements for me felt a little bit tame for this franchise, to be completely honest, but there were elements about the more modern filmmaking that I did enjoy, some of the stylistic choices, and it was just nice to be able to see Chris Rock giving a more serious performance, even though there were moments of kind of inconsistencies with that. It was great to see Samuel L. Jackson in a Saw film, and as a longtime Saw fan, what I can say is there's definitely things there for Saw fans, but I don't think this is going to, blow people's minds, even if you are a Saw fan. And if you're not a Saw fan, this movie may just kind of be whatever to you. So I'm definitely curious to hear what you guys have to say. As you can see, I'm fairly conflicted on it. There's a lot about it that I enjoyed, and then there's also that element of being a Saw fan and kind of having a guilty pleasure kind of placed in my heart for these films. And then there's an element of just recognizing that this film, in and of itself, as a standalone film, is just fine. There's not an abundance to really latch onto, and when you feel like there are things that they can really latch onto or kind of develop, they don't develop those things as much. So yeah, that's gonna be my thoughts on Spiral from the Book of Saw. Sorry if I feel a little bit all over the place. It's actually 2 in the morning right now. I ended up getting this screener a lot later than a lot of the other people, and I definitely wanted to get this review out to you guys as soon as possible. So Spiral from the Book of Saw, it's coming out in theaters very soon, literally as of filming this today, later today, depending on when you're seeing this. And so yeah, I do recommend checking it out. I think it's worth checking out. Get your own opinion on. I don't think it's a bad movie, but I don't think it's a great or good movie. I think it's just a decent movie. I think it was an entertaining, just watchable movie. I think that's the best way I can kind of explain it. There's definitely elements about it that are fun to watch and are entertaining. So I would even bump up what I just said from, a watchable, decent movie to, watchable, goodish movie. I'll say that. Watchable, goodish movie. Could have been better. Not the best in the franchise, not the worst in the franchise, about middle of the road. So yeah, that's going to be my thoughts on Spiral from the Book of Saw, guys. Have a great day. Comment your thoughts down below. Are you guys going to check this movie out? Have you already checked it out? Hit that like button if you enjoyed the video. Subscribe for more videos. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.